Hello, ladies. Today we are talking about headaches and migraines and how can we provide relief for this debilitating symptom. So before I bring in my guests, I want to do a quick intro to who I am. My name is Andrea Donsky. I'm a nutritionist for 20 plus years. I'm a menopause educator and I'm a published menopause researcher. And I'm the co-founder of wearemorphus.com, a company that empowers you to take control of your health and symptoms with nutrition, lifestyle, supplements, and research. And talking about research, we have new surveys on our website, one on polycystic ovary syndrome, PCOS, and menopause, as well as one on men's perspective on menopause. So I would love you to go fill them out. And the men's perspective on menopause is actually for your significant other. So please share it with him. And we want to hear what men have to say about the women that they're with who are in this phase of life. Today, I'm speaking with Diane Ducarme. She's the host of the Migraine Heroes Podcast and creator of the Migraine Heroes app. With a background in engineering, neuroscience, and studies in traditional Chinese medicine, she blends Eastern wisdom with Western science to uncover the root causes of migraines on top of genetics. A Harvard MBA and fluent in 7 languages, Diane champions a completely novel approach with a goal to help 1 million people move beyond restriction towards real, lasting relief. Now, here's Diane. Welcome to Menopause Reimagined, Diane.
Very, very nice. Thank you so much for having me, Andrea.
So I'm happy to have you on because headaches and migraines, I was just actually looking at my data this morning from our research. And what we now have 5,200 women plus who have filled out our signs and symptoms survey, and which is so incredible. So for those of you who are listening, if you haven't filled it out yet, please go fill out our surveys. We now have 13 on our website, but our signs and symptoms was the first one that we ever launched in 2022. And headaches and migraines are number 17 on the list. So they're in the top 20 most common symptoms. And we know that 44.5, so 45% of women in this phase of life are experiencing it and suffering from headaches or migraines.
That's massive, massive.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised, but still, it's almost 1 in 2. It makes it so hard to function. It's so debilitating.
So debilitating. And I have a few friends. So shout out to Robin, shout out to Lisa. I mean, I have friends who suffer from migraines. Robin in particular, Lisa suffers from headaches. Robin in particular suffers from migraines. And I thought it would be a really good conversation to have because I haven't covered this on my podcast before. So let's get into it. So tell me, so first of all, talk about what got you interested in headaches and migraines and wanting to share this with the world.
So when I was 17, I had a skiing accident. I lost half of my blood. I broke my femur and I shrunk a kidney. And my body completely flipped from that moment on. And so for 12 years, I've lived maybe not like a woman in menopause, but something along these lines. I was really lacking half of my blood and they had never transfused me because there were contaminated blood issues in France. And this was 2001. And so my body changed and I started to need to nap from 2 p.m. to 8 a.m. the next day. And things became a lot more difficult. And it's only 12 years later, as I was working in China, so I finished my studies, I went to work in the US, and then I moved to China, that by coincidence, I knocked on the door of a quite, reputed Chinese doctor just to have a go. I just thought, hey, it's part of the cultural experience. I'm just going to have a go. And that woman fixed me in 3 weeks only using foods. And I was jaw-dropping. I went back to work. I was surrounded by men and they told me, Diane, it's placebo. And I didn't reply. But at that time, my cycles were 43 days, 65, 51. It's completely random. And when I had stopped the pill, I didn't have my menstruation for 7 months. And so there you go. That woman fixes me 3 weeks just with foods. And she just says, basically, because you're so anemic, you never got back your full blood volume. I'm just going to help you with that. And so from there, I felt that impulsive urge to help people. And so whenever I'd have visitors, I'd bring them to her. And my sister, a couple of years later, told me I have a lot of migraines. And our uncle had died of a brain tumor. And she said, I've done 3 MRI, 3 CT scans, and 3 MRIs. And the radiologist tells me no longer to come back and they're migraines and there's nothing that he can do about it. I should just accept and medicate. And I said to her, I'm pretty sure that you have something, but not what he has. I know someone who can help us with that. And so we write 3 pages on all of her symptoms, and we go for an hour conversation. She tells her what to eat, and the migraines are gone. This was 2015. But then later, as I lived then in New Zealand, my friend tells me from New York, tells me, oh, I've had this really confrontational conversation with my dad. I've had 7 years of migraines. And he tells me I need to get medicated for life, including having injections. I said to her, oh, I'm so sorry that you're having migraines for such a long time. You never mentioned. She's like, oh, I don't like to mention because there's no solution. Basically, it says me, I need to have injections. I'm like, injections of what? That sounds scary. You know what? I think I know someone who can help. And so in between WhatsApp and WeChat, etc., it took us 4 months and we figured out. And I asked her, why did your dad ask you to do this? Like, this sounds unreasonable. And she said to me, because my dad is a renowned neurologist. And I thought, wait a minute, that doesn't make sense. And so this is how I started. And then I fell in compassionate love with women around the globe who have so much pain, so debilitated, their life completely controlled, everything in between parentheses, including, taking care of their children, having beautiful, meaningful relationships, work. And so it's been an amazing journey. Now we have the Migraine Heroes app, and the app helps people around the world. We have a target of 1 million people by December 2027 that we want to help. It's been completely purpose-led.
Wow. So how many people do suffer from migraines and headaches around the world?
It's 1 in 5 women. So in the for women under 50, it's the first cause of disability worldwide, first one. And because it's not deadly, it loses the ranks to things like cardiovascular diseases. And because it's women, the whole you're anxious, you're over exaggerating, etc. Because it's 1 in 20 men. So hormones have a lot to do with it. But not only that, Western science shows that the hormones account for a proportion of that difference between 5% of men to 18% of women, but not the whole lot. And that's what you see here now in perimenopause and in menopause. You see, hey, even if technically in menopause, well, your hormones, have changed a lot, we still observe sort of almost 1 in 2 experience some form of headache, dizziness, vertigo, migraines.
Wow. So what is the difference? Maybe we can go through some definitions. So for those of you who are suffering, you know really well what those definitions are, but if you can take us through like the difference between a headache and a migraine.
So to have a migraine is a full body experience that may or may not involve head pain, usually will, but not always. There are some things called silent migraines, and will involve the rest of the body. So you will have what is called a migraine attack in 3 phases, with a first phase of symptoms, which is called the prodrome, and then you're going to go into the migraine attack and then the postdrome. And that sort of head pain is accompanied by other symptoms such as nausea, trembling sensations, numbness, half paralysis, trouble speaking, tingling sensations, etc. Like a lot of sensations, and so that's a migraine. A migraine is genetic. So there's 1 to 128 genes lucky that have been found responsible for migraine. Headache is something that other people experience. Will be a head manifestation as well. It doesn't come as a full body experience. A migraine also lasts anywhere from 4 hours to 3 days. And for some people, they start and they never stop. So among the 45% of women, because you're so data driven, I love your data. This is fabulous, by the way. 5,200 is a lot. I think the next question would be for me is how often? Because you'll see that some of these women, it's just their reality day to day. Yeah.
So from what I've heard from other women, and I know I haven't had a migraine myself, but from what I understand is that you could sense a migraine coming on. Is there anything that the women who suffer from migraines can actually do to stop one from going into a full-blown migraine?
Absolutely. So there's what they're advised and then what to do. What women are advised to do is to medicate as early as possible. So from the moment they have either tingling sensations or trembling sensation, numbness in the arms, some might say, I yawn compulsively, I can't stop yawning, or I sigh often, and that's going to be the sign. Or I have a massive fatigue, massive energy dip. I know it's coming. Or every single morning, every day on the clock, I wake up and it hits me, bam, like when you were talking about sleep, for example, in some of your talks, the 4 a.m., I wake up, bam, with like massive migraine, and then it's just there. they will be told to medicate as early as possible. And that's going to momentarily work. It's going to momentarily work because you're taking a painkiller that is going to aim to kill the pain. The challenge with that is that over-the-counter painkillers, as well as triptans, for example, that are oftentimes given for migraines, will over time give something that is called medication overuse headaches or rebound migraines. So you start to have a migraine that is not triggered by stress or menopause or other imbalances. You start to have migraines that are triggered by the medication itself.
Oh,
So you
wow.
take a medication, you have a couple of hours or 24 hours of rest, and then that pain hits back and again and again and again. And you start to be in a very, very vicious circle. So that's what women are going to be told. Now, the medication is also going to increase the toxicity on the liver. And the liver organ is so hyper connected to the brain that the toxicity and inflammation inside of the liver will be highly felt in the brain. And so that's going to start to impact a lot of things. And it's going to start to make me more bloated. It's going to also start to make me wake up between 1 and 3 a.m. at night. Now, the right way to do it is to abort a migraine with food and with teas. And I know you're a big ChatGPT fan and user. So am I. I love it. I have created an AI that just does that in the
Oh,
Migraine
you're
Heroes
kidding.
app. Yeah, it's called the Migraine Now
Absolutely.
button. And it's
Okay.
just a button that you press on and it knows you, it knows your symptoms, etc. And then knows, oh, this is Andrea. Okay, this is her age, this is her pattern, this is how her stools are, how, she has cognitive impairment or dizziness, vertigo, etc. And therefore, this is, 3 foods that might abort the migraine right here, right now. And what women say is that the next day they feel completely fresh and the life full of colors. Now, if you're listening to this, you're going to think, oh my God, that sounds too good to be true. This is where it's purpose led. Like we are in it for the woman, just like you are. Enough is enough. This has to stop. And so, yeah, it's beautiful. So we're trying to prevent in the Migraine Heroes app, but also abort. The abortion is really important.
So Diane, you're mentioning food and you say it's too good to be true, but the truth is as a nutritionist, for me, food is the foundation of everything. And it's connected our what we put in on our body is all it's connected to so many different so many different systems. So can you talk a little bit about how everything kind of goes together? So for example, like let's say you have an issue with constipation or maybe you have other issues that are going on. Are they connected and is there a relationship between them?
Yes, absolutely. So let's talk about the vagus nerve for a minute. So I like to compare the vagus nerve to a massive tree. And that tree is going to plant its roots around your heart, around your liver, around your stomach, around your small and large intestine. And these roots and ramifications are going to collate the 100 billion nerve cells of your body. And then they're going to form larger roots along your spine, a big trunk in the neck, and then plug in the brain. The brain is like this big foliage and leaves that form the tree. But they plug in a bit of a mysterious way because all of these nerves and cables are going to be wired through the brain via the trigeminal nerve. And then from a Western point of view, we kind of lost the plot. Yeah. Now, when we look at the East, in the East, we're going to describe aging and compare it to the 4 seasons. So when you're a child, you have a lot of sap in your tree, a lot of collagen. You have, these big cheeks and those, yummy legs that are like triple sizes. And then you get pregnant, you get into the summer. So this is spring, then you get pregnant and you get into the summer. And in the summer, you have fruits on your tree. So you have children, you're in childbearing age, you have maybe more breast milk, you have 2 hearts in your body, you have more blood. It's abundance, yeah, summertime. And then we go through perimenopause and menopause, and we go towards autumn. And so we start to dry. So the sap of my tree is starting to dry. What it means is concretely, I'm going to start to have more wrinkles. I'm going to start to have more constipation. So I'm going to start to have more brain fog. So along my vagus nerve, both from a digestive point of view and a brain point of view, I have less and less sap. Yeah. And that sap doesn't allow for my cognitive function to be at its best, but also my digestive issues. As well, I'm going to start to experience vaginal dryness. So my dry skin, my vaginal dryness, my a lot of these are connected. Now, funny enough, the hot flushes are also connected to that. Why? Because that sap, that yin, the role it has is to cool you down. Let's compare you to a big factory, like an Iranian plant, where there's a lot of heat inside to cook the food and to make all of the process work. In order to keep the plant non-explosive, what we need is we need that cooling agent, that water that circulates and allows to keep the body under temperature. When you have less of that, you're going to start to have hot flushes. And even though you're lacking yin, you're going to start to sweat and have night sweats because you're just too hot inside and you can't control it, which is going to impact your sleep. So then you start to see how all of that yin, which also contains collagen, etc., is starting to really impact the quality of your life. Now, inside the yin circulates some of the hormones, namely estrogen. Yeah. And so that's a beautiful system that's going to interconnect a lot of these symptoms. And so when you look in the food kingdom, what you want to do is you want to give you foods that will give you yin, give you moisture. Yeah. So one thing I love to recommend, for example, is a chamomile and goji berries infusion. And why do I pair those two together? Because sometimes they also have faults. So if you take a chamomile, for example, it has the ability to cool you down physically, like just bring the temperature of your body down. But I don't want to bring it too much down because it's not certain you're really hot inside, but you're lacking yin. That's what makes you feel hot. Yeah. So it allows to detox and to stimulate your liver. I'm really interested. I really want a cool and peaceful and happy liver, no anger, just lots of really good mood. Yeah. And at the same time, because it's too cold, I'm going to pair it with a goji berry. And the goji berry is neutral in temperature, and it's going to allow to do 6 jobs for me. It's going to stimulate my liver, detox my liver. It's also going to nourish my kidney system, so my nervous system. It's going to allow to increase my blood, increase my yin, and reduce inflammation. And so I'm going to love it. It's an adaptogen. And it's going to bring that temperature, even if it's neutral, it's a little bit warming because it adds liquids, and it's going to bring that temperature of the beverage really, really good. However, if you have estrogen dominance, not right for you. If you are on a FODMAP diet because you have IBS, not right for you. If you are freshly pregnant, not the best idea. Yeah. So always, if it does, and if it doesn't suit you, you know what? Listen to your body. It's the boss. You might not know in the moment, but this just doesn't suit you. Yeah. Not everything that is natural is safe. Sometimes it can be harmful.
Doesn't work for everybody. Exactly. So is
Exactly.
that something that the AI or your app can help people with? Like, so it'll be like customized for each individual and they put in all their information and then it would come back with a tea that would be specific for that person?
Yes, absolutely. So when you were
Wow.
asking, can you stop the migraine? Can you do something really, really quickly? Yes, then we're going to try to provide you with 3 infusions or 2 infusions, one food immediately that you probably
Mm.
have in your home because we have a sense of, what foods we've recommended you. And we have a sense of what sort of migraine are you experiencing in the moment. Because even though you might have migraines every day, they're not the same at all times. The before menstruation are different to the during menstruation, that are different to the after menstruation, that are different if you're in menopause. And so it's going to adapt
Oh,
to that. And so we work with 750 foods and food combinations. It's absolutely marvelous. And nature still has it. It does. It's always had it. I think it's just a lot of marketing that it doesn't. It does. It simply
that
does.
is okay. First of all, that's incredible because if you're talking about being able to stop a migraine before it progresses with food and different concoctions that you could make in your house. So according to this app, you input your information. Does it take the app a while to get to know you, or does it do it based on all the information you input and then you're ready to go?
It takes a little bit of time to get to know you. Initially, we also, when you have a migraine, sometimes you have a lot of layers. It's not just one thing, it's a combination of things. And so we're going to unpeel you like an onion and remove a layer, and we remove 2 layers at a time. So we're quite fast. Tremendous success in menopause, for example. It's just, formidable because you get women to live again. And so as you have fewer and fewer layers, it becomes so easy to spot them and stop them. And I would say everyone's a
Wow.
bit different. Yeah.
I think that's absolutely incredible. Like, first of all, congratulations on coming up with an app that can potentially be such a game changer for so many women. I mean, we speak to women in perimenopause and menopause, but so many people in general, and to prevent it and to help. So that's the migraine piece. But what about the headache piece? So how does your app or your AI help people who have
It
headaches?
it works the same simply because
Okay.
the body will still send similar signals. I would say a person who has a genetic predisposition for migraines has a radar that is actually quite, I would say, superior. I don't have them either. It's superior. It's just there for the longevity of your brain. It's sending you very clear signals and we read them. Now, if you quote unquote only have headaches, it still works because there's a lot of symptoms, etc., that we take into consideration because we see that in vast populations of people with migraines, then we're able to make it work for people who have fewer. And so that really addresses, because once the sap of your tree, let's imagine we worked on your yin, and the sap of your tree works really well, then you go to the bowel, you have a bowel movement every single day. You go to the bathroom every single day. That's wonderful. From the moment your intestines are lubricated, your brain is lubricated. Therefore, you have more energy. And that's really important. Now, why is it difficult and why, every single person we work with, they're on different list of foods. And why that is because you have opposing forces inside of you. So we talked about the lack of yin. You can also have something called an excess dampness. You can have humidity inside of the body. Let me explain how that would work. So let's imagine, like you advise a lot of the people you work with, you need a bit of digestive enzymes, which is so true. As we age, we lose our ability to digest food and to decompose it. So let's imagine that for a number of years, you haven't known Andrea and you've eaten really well, but you have not digested and decomposed your food effectively. Your food still went down and you start to have that biome, which is very mucousy, very yak. Yeah. So in the East, we're going to call that dampness. In the West, it has a lot of name. Urinary tract infection. It's going to be called skin rash, eczema, a foggy brain. Just a lot of endometriosis, a lot of things that will be coming from that root cause of dampness. Now, if you have that, and everyone has a little form of that too, when you add a yin, you're going to augment the dampness. So think SIBO, think Candida, all of that sort of biome issues. So you have to regulate for that given person how much more yin, how much less dampness. And so really upgrading the liquids inside the biome and upgrading therefore the brain.
Mm.
And the difference is felt in a way that is completely transparent. When we work on profiles, like I know, I know, and the goal is sharp and free. Is not like I didn't have pain today, but I felt, I felt just there's just nothing coming out of this engine. I'm just out. I'm a flat tire. So we really want the sharp, free, super high energy, super good bowel movement, no symptom. Like that's what we go for. And nature accompanies you and is able, nature is capable of doing it. You have to believe it. Like what you say, the nutrition, the lifestyle, the supplements is there to help you. It is feasible. Yes. So I think the first thing is hope. And the second is understanding. I felt into compassionate love with people who suffer from migraine disease. They've been just so neglected. And the field of research is currently pure field of research is really on the gut-brain axis and says, look, this is where the answer should come from. But the field of a solution is strictly on killing the pain, which creates a lot of damage. Because now let's talk about that heavily medication. So if you say, okay, I'm just going to be a bit naughty, I'm not going to follow, Andrea's system of nutrition, lifestyle supplements, I'm going to go with the medication path, which sometimes, look, we have no choice for. I'm not against it. Sometimes we have to do what we have to do. What it's going to do is going to intoxicate the liver. Now, the liver is in charge of producing in part some of that yin. And think of him or think of that yin, which also comes from the kidney system, as a fire hose of a fireman, like of the water of a fireman. And he's in charge, the yin, of extinguishing inflammation. So your ability to stop inflammation is massively decreased by the medication itself. So now you can clearly see the more you will medicate, the more you will have migraine. End of story. And this is something that we see a lot in the data. Is very documented in Western medicine because, of compliance. Like, And people also mean well. They're really aware that, as you medicate more, you will have more migraines. From the Western science, the medications that are pinpointed are the over-the-counter triptans, opioids, and a lot of the other ones, but not all. From my perspective and experience seeing people, I would say any toxin is a toxin, no exception. So, a lot of the women you work with in perimenopause, menopause, they stop drinking wine. They're like, hey, you know what? I mean, these hot flushes and those night sweats, not worth
Can't do
it.
it anymore. I
Cannot,
can't touch alcohol anymore.
exactly. I cannot do it anymore. And it's valid for all of the toxins. So a toxin, is my view, and what we see. Like what we're developing is really an intelligence and is data driven, because we're faced with, a very male population also, that will exert its own opinion on what we do, and we want to be bulletproof and very data driven. In the data, that's what we see.
So, from what I'm hearing and what you said, is that the liver plays a big role in whether or not people are getting headaches and migraines, because the liver is the major detoxification organ of the body. So, when our liver, whatever it is that it has to ultra process, I guess, or process extensively, or whatever's making it more sluggish, is all
Yes.
going to have an effect on
Yes.
headaches and
Yes. In
migraines.
addition to that, there are a few other symptoms that are really important, like the kidney system, for example, plays a huge role. You talk a lot about stress and anxiety as some of the triggers, or the rising cortisol, that affects sleep. It's extremely important. So the kidney system is also connected to the brain via behind the head and a lot of the neck. And so when you can have a lot of neck tension, that can lead to a migraine, and a migraine can lead to neck tension, and anxiety can lead to a migraine, and a migraine can lead to anxiety. You can start to have anxiety of the next migraine attack. So you
Yeah,
get
of
into that
course.
vicious circle of fear,
Yeah.
where just, every single day, at some point in the day, it's going to hit you. Like every day at 8 p.m., it's going to hit me. And I'm stressed a whole day in anticipation of that 8 p.m. migraine, which then unfolds. The stomach spleen, you talk a lot about digestive enzymes. The stomach spleen also relates to the prefrontal cortex. I don't know if you have some of your children doing, if you had some of your children do this, they eat an ice cream super fast and then they go brain freeze. Have you
Yeah.
ever, yeah.
I've done it myself.
So through that experience, you realize that alongside your vagus nerve, alongside your gut-brain axis, your stomach relates to your prefrontal cortex. So if you have more digestive issues, or like stomach spleen issues, you're going to feel more forehead migraines. So it's really different messages for
Interesting.
different systems. Yeah.
That is so interesting, Diane, honestly. So, okay, so let's talk about, so I guess from the foods, like you were saying, are very specific to the individuals who are using the app and inputting their information. Before we go into specifics about the app, is there anything that you would say, like in general, like if you feel a headache or a migraine coming on, here's something you can try that's for everyone, or is it really individualized down to like the type of tea they're drinking? Like, is there something that's more of like everyone could benefit from getting vitamin C rich foods? Or I'm just kind of throwing it out there.
Yeah, a really, really good point. I think it's extremely specific what to add and what to correct. However, sometimes I see people making, with migraines specifically, making mistakes in what they do day to day that they think is helpful. So, for example, if you take nuts, you have to soak them overnight, because otherwise they're going to take the yin from your digestive tract in order to be digested. And so if you have migraines, it's going to help you to really soak them. If you don't, it will help you to really, so that the nuts doesn't hydrate inside of your body. Another one I find is sometimes really warming foods that have anti-inflammatory properties, that the West still needs to understand better, is ginger, for example. Ginger is very
I was going to say
warming.
ginger, maybe turmeric. That's what kind of came to mind.
Exactly. Ginger, turmeric are super warm and therefore are going to take away your yin in order to be digested. And so I sometimes meet people who have dizziness, vertigo, and are going to take these on a daily basis. Just removing that and then substituting with a chamomile and goji berries, if your body tolerates it, then that's a game changer in itself.
Because that is so fascinating to me. Like, I mean, I'm not surprised. Like, I'm not surprised because I know years ago I went to, I mean, I love Chinese medicine and I went to a Chinese medicine practitioner and she gave me all this information about my body as well. But the fact that you have, like you said, 750 different foods, is that what you said? I
Yeah.
mean, to me, that you now have the actual foods based on the actual person, based on AI, based on the, like, this is brilliant. Like, this is so
It's
brilliant. Like,
It's
for
amazing. And
real.
I want to tell you a story. When I started, there was this billionaire man who gave me some advice. And he said, "Oh, you have 30 questions. I think, darling, this is a bit too long. It should be 10." And also, it was six
No,
years ago.
women want to get the help. I'll give you 100. Ask me
Complete.
100 questions if you're going to help me.
And then he says, "Oh, you have 57 food. Yeah, darling, that's a bit too complicated. I think you just should have 10." And then you create this beautiful box with this beautiful placebo effect. And I stared at him and I
Oh,
thought, "You really know nothing, do you?" Um, and
jeez.
now we're fast forward, and I have this incredible senior leader from Google who has been following my work for some time. And she said to me a couple of months ago, she said, "Diane, I can either grow Google or I can grow you. And I think I want to grow you. You can currently serve,
Oh, I love that.
100 people in parallel. I think we can make that a million. And I'm gonna join and rally forces." And she just
Love
willingly,
that.
yeah, absolutely. So phenomenal. It's really, really special, and it has to change. Like, we have to change this. This is not okay. It's a fifth of women impaired, and I appreciate. There's so little data actually on migraine and menopause and perimenopause. Very, very little data. There's a lot of data on puberty because the incidence triples to quadruples in puberty, and then they
Mm,
say this sort of yeah change sort of in menopause, and then goes the data goes completely silent. So it's incredible now to have this brilliant data on, then becomes almost 1 in 2, because you really take the dizziness, the vertigo. For me, it's really that similar family. And it can start to tackle the eyes as well. We haven't talked about that, but creating aura or visual disturbances when you start to see dots, prisms, blurred at night. You have really dry eyes, itchy eyes. All of that can also pertain to that same family.
fantastic. Wow. You know what I'm thinking as you're speaking? I'm like, maybe we need to team up to do a survey together because we can go deeper into, I mean, vertigo, tinnitus, like you're saying, yes, all of that. Those are all symptoms of perimenopause and menopause. So I think that maybe we need to talk offline about it because I think if we were to gather more data, that could just help you with your app and help women.
Massively, massively, massively. And a lot of my friends, they said, "Can you please do menopause next?" I said, "I'm so busy with migraines, but sure, I think it matters. It matters massively because it's also at the age, there's this old Chinese saying that says, have a child, plant a tree, write a book." And we don't have to be 40 or 50 or 60. We get to be 40, 50, 60. We get to have that beautiful experience, that wisdom, and that wisdom is there to be transmitted. You're so relevant. You are so important to society. You're important to your family, to your tribe, to your community, to your partner. And yet, when all of these things happen to us, we can't operate anymore. I think
Yeah.
that's really unfair. I think that's just completely unfair.
Yeah. And I think, I agree with the woman from Google who's helping you. I think that there's a huge opportunity to help women. And I appreciate you doing all the research on our podcast. Like you're so like, I love it. You came so prepared and I think that's so great. And I'm in awe of what you're doing. And I definitely would love you to share how people can find you. How is there, or actually before you even go there, is there anything else that you want to share with our audience before we end the interview?
It's really hope. Keep your hope. It's possible. I have a podcast called Migraine Heroes. Every week, I give 2 podcasts, and it's like, sort of bulletproof advice, just concrete, 10, 15 minutes, bam, bam, bam advice on how to manage migraines. We're here to help. It's purpose led. When I started this, I had 7 investors wanting to invest, and one of them said, "Can you make them sick longer?" As I was interviewing him, and I said, "Excuse me?" He says, "Yeah, it's a problem. You solve the problem business wise. Can you make them sick longer?" And I really thought, okay, I'm on my own here. So this is completely bootstrapped. It's done to help, because because I think yeah, I think your audience deserves it. Like, we as women, we have to stand for each other and by each other. And so this is the love that you see. And so when you see the app, think of it as the result of years and years. The first was paper tracker. And then we went into a web app, etc. I had to keep the cost low and always solve the problem first. It was not about the tech, it was about the people. And as we were able to solve, then start to talk about it. And yes, when I saw all of your data and how data driven you are, and how spectacular your work is, I really thought, wow, like this feels so incredible. We should definitely team up and rise for all of the women that you represent.
Oh, I love that. I'm so happy that you reached out. So thank you. All right. So let's tell everyone how they can access the app. Obviously, you mentioned your podcast. We'll put links to everything below too, but how could they find you on social media and then get access to this app right away so they can start inputting their information?
So one name to remember, Migraine Heroes. It's the Migraine Heroes Podcast, the Migraine Heroes app, and the migraineheroes.com website. And there you can find us. The easiest way is, believe it or not, I do still onboarding calls with one of our former customers. She had 4,000 days of migraines consecutive. And when she was out of them, she says, I'd love to help you. She's incredible. And so we do onboarding calls. The first thing is to understand in plain English what's going on inside your body. And once you understand and you have that knowledge, come with your partner if you want. Like, you have power, because we want to teach you, and you give it the power from your kitchen. And so just take action, feel your hope, keep your flame, your life matters. And there's something in front of you. There's someone who had made drastic changes in his life. And he said, I still have 100% of the rest of my life in front of me. And so I want you to think I have 100% of my life in front of me. What I love is when we meet people, we drastically transform. And that transformation allows for a second life. And in Eastern culture, perimenopause is called the second spring, because you cannot do the same and it's going to work. You have to reinvent yourself. So now is the time to reinvent and transform. So you can do that with Migraine Heroes.
I love it. Well, thank you so much for coming on my podcast today.
Thank you so much for having me, Andrea.
I hope you enjoyed my interview with Diane. Her app is incredible. I've had the chance to play around with it, and her and I were chit-chatting after the interview, and we are so much alike. We both love data, we both love our customers, and we both want to help you feel better. So if you enjoyed the interview, please share it, because the more you share shows you care. And please take a moment to rate and review our podcast so more women can listen to our interviews on Menopause Reimagined. Thank you for spending the last little bit with me. I know there's a lot you could be doing, but instead you chose to spend your time with me. And for that, I am grateful. I'll see you at the next interview.